All right, we're going to install some gravity grip. When you get your gravity grip kit from Flowtoys, you should also get some elastomer bands that are going to kind of cover the end of the grip so that it doesn't peel off when you slide your hand past it, drop your staff, etc. You are not going to get alcohol and a paper towel. That'll be on you. But the point is you want your shaft to be clean because this is adhesive backed and you want that adhesive to really stick well. So if you've removed old grip from your shaft, if you've been handling your shaft, even if it's brand new and your hands were a little bit oily, you hadn't washed them in the past 5 minutes, you might have left some oils on there. It's just a really good idea to clean the shaft. You could use soapy water, warm water, pretty much anything that's going to degrease it and remove any oils or other contaminants that will prevent the adhesive from sticking. So once you've got a nice clean shaft, you are going to flip your staff around for no reason at all, and then get to the end of your grip and peel off some of the paper liner to expose the adhesive. Now this is maybe the tricky part. We got to get the right angle here, and you also need to decide how much of your staff do you want to grip. That's a pretty personal choice. There's a lot of people have different opinions on that. You might want to grip only the amount that you really need gripped when you're using your staff, and that will vary depending on how you use it. It's kind of an aesthetic thing. Do you want some of the shiny carbon fiber or whatever you have to be exposed at the end, or do you want your grip to go all the way to the end? I'm going to grip this one all the way to the end, and so I don't need to figure out where to mark it, where I'm going to start and where I'm going to end. If you were going to say do the middle third of your staff, you would want to put some marks there with a Sharpie or something so that you could clearly start and end in the correct spot. So I'm going to start, I'm going to be ending right here at this line, and so I'm starting with the corner there, and I'm just kind of picking an angle that I think is going to get me to the right spot here. Pretty close, but not quite. So I'm going to redo it a little bit until when I come back around, I'm starting at the same corner and I've got the right angle where my grip is just matching up. You don't want to overlap gravity grip. You want it to be just edge to edge, right next to each other. And so let's start getting that going. Now, because I didn't really start super clean, I feel like it's a little bit wavy. So for one part, I'm kind of going up towards it, and then as I come around, I've got to go further down, and I don't really like how that's going, so I'm just going to back it up here and start over. And I think this is happening in part because of this tapered connector here. So I'm going to try and start it out. I'm just going to start over completely. That there. And I'm also going to be coming back and cutting off this end. And I'll kind of clean that up when I do that, because I'm going to cut this off so that it's a nice straight start. One thing to consider is how much you are stretching the grip as you're putting it on. You don't want to stretch it very much. It's not like our elastomer grip where you actually stretch it very tightly as you're putting it on and you're counting on the overlap being tight to prevent it from coming up. This is adhesive backed, and that's what's going to be holding it down. And if you stretch it really tight, it might creep out on you later where it pulls off the adhesive and tries to unstretch. So you don't want it to be stretched too tight. I'm going for just kind of lightly snug, I would say. And as I come around here, if I overlap just the tiniest bit, I get a little puckered grip there. You don't want that. And then if I don't get it close enough, I have a tiny little gap where a little bit of dirt might build up or something, so I want to keep that gap to a minimum. And I'm going to switch hands here and use my right hand, which is my dominant hand, to control the grip, and roll the staff with my other hand And I'm definitely finding that easier to do. My grip's getting all twisted because I've got this whole roll of it. So I'm going to untwist that a bit. And I'm actually going to spool some off the roll. I'll make this easier to work All right. So, gotta be honest with you, this is my first time doing an entire shaft with gravity grip. And a few things I noticed. One is, it is pretty tricky to keep that seam just perfect. Starting out really consistent makes a big difference, and I kept trying to kind of compensate by maybe leaving a tiny gap where it was thin and pushing it up where it was hard. And that wasn't really working out. What I figured out was it was actually how much I was stretching it was making a big difference in how wide it was. And so I was able to compensate quite a bit better later on once I figured that out. And wherever it was coming up short, I reduced the amount of stretch, and that kind of filled in the gap. And then where it was kind of trying to overlap, I would stretch it out a little bit more, and that helped even things out. In the end, I would say this is a slightly imperfect job. I've got some little gaps here and there. If I was going to be really particular about it, I would actually just peel all this off and do it again, just being really careful not to get dirt on the adhesive or to be handling the adhesive too much. Like, I actually got a little bit sweaty doing that, and I would go and wash my hands to make sure that they're clean before attempting it again so that I don't have the oils from my sweat on my hands. But now we're going to move on to the next step, which is going to be cutting the ends of the grip. So I've gripped it all the way to the end here, and I'm just going to leave my excess grip hanging off. And I have a really obvious mark. If you've marked it with a Sharpie and you're ending partway down the shaft, you're going to want to back up the grip until you can see your mark. And then you're going to want to start a cut where that mark is. And start cutting right there. Now you can cover up the mark because you've got the cut as your reference. And you're going to want to cut with a nice sharp blade so that it easily cuts the grip without you pushing too hard and cutting into your shaft any more than necessary. Right? I'm going to actually take this paper backing off and come here and cut a nice straight line, coming right back around to the point where I started. Peel off the excess, and that finishes that. Same thing over here. Cut off a little wedge shape there so that the end of the grip is just flush circle. So now the grip's adhesive, but it's not going to be able to handle the wear and tear of really using your staff and things sliding past that. The end of that grip is going to start to peel up, dirt's going to get under the adhesive, and it's not going to stick back down again, and it's just going to get worse and worse. There's a few ways you could finish that off. You could use tape, a tape that's flexible. You could tape over the end, maybe with some tape of a color that you like. Electrical tape or vinyl tape works really well for this, but it will creep afterwards because you need to kind of stretch it to conform around the shape of the grip down your shaft. So when you stretch that tape tight and then you cut it off, later, especially with a little heat in the sun, it's going to peel back and expose the adhesive and be all messy and gross. So one trick to prevent that is to do the first layer of tape tight and then do the last loop of tape kind of loose so that it's not stretched too much. Cut it cleanly and stick it down, and then it won't peel back so much. We have a more durable option that we're including with the grip, which is this short piece of elastomer tube. So once this is on there, that's what's going to hold it down. And you can stretch this over the end of your shaft and just kind of fold it over, get it all on there, and roll it down. It's very grippy, so it's very hard to slide it down. You want to just roll it down there until you get it to your grip, and roll it past where you're going to need it, and then kind of unfold it and bring it up and kind of massage it into place, basically. So go. Got that about half covering my grip and half covering the end of the staff, and that's going to keep the grip down. And when I slide past this, it does kind of roll and flip up a little bit, but it pops right back down, and it's really durable and it's easy to maintain, and if it gets super dirty under there, you can clean it. So it's kind of going to last forever compared to a piece of electrical tape that you might need to replace or might turn into a sticky mess. Kind of, you know, matter of preference, but I like this because it's super reliable and simple and easy to do. I'm going to do that on the other side, and I'll be ready to flow. Boom. Gravity grip.